Not sure who can be the DPO for your organisation? Are you wondering if you can be the DPO for your organisation? Don't panic. In this free video, we'll cover off exactly who can and who can't be DPO. And stay with us because I'll finish with the biggest point that may just save you and your organisation a load of embarrassment and potentially far more. Hi, I'm Robert Bohr, the founder and CEO of Keepable. We save you time, money and stress on GDPR and give you a great answer for the board and customers. This video is part of Privacy Kitchen, our free video help with GDPR and all things privacy. If you're new here, please do click subscribe and notify to hear about awesome Privacy Kitchen videos. Links are in the note as always. Okay, the big question, who can be DPO and who can't be DPO? Let's find out. So first off, some great news. Although regulators do hope that you make an employee your DPO, you don't have to. You can outsource this to an individual or an organisation. And I seriously recommend you consider this. If you do outsource it to an organisation, do make sure you have the name of the single individual who will be lead person for you. And helpfully, a single DPO can act for more than one organisation, provided the DPO is easily accessible from each establishment. So what does that mean? Well, the DPO is the contact point for the data subject, for the processor or the controller who's appointed them, and for the supervisory authority like our UK Information Commissioner's Office or UK ICO. So being easily accessible means something about location and language skills. Regulators recommend that the DPO is located in the EU regardless of where the controller or processor is established. But they do recognise that in some situations where the controller or processor doesn't have an establishment in the EU, it may be that the DPO can do their role better outside the EU, presumably close to the entity that's appointed them. And on language skills, the DPO must be able to efficiently communicate with data subjects and supervisory authorities. And regulators say that means in the language or languages used by those authorities and by those data subjects. Now, in practice, I wouldn't panic about finding someone who speaks 6 languages. I'd make sure your DPO is really capable and is supported by people who speak the required languages. So we've already established the person can be an employee or outsourced. They can act as a DPO for others, but they do need to be accessible in terms of location and language to the authorities and the data subjects. Now, the biggest and most misunderstood, potentially controversial factor, conflict of interest. The key rule here is that DPOs are allowed to have other tasks and duties, but only if those other tasks and duties do not give rise to conflicts of interests. This means that 2 categories of people are potentially conflicted. Those involved in determining the purposes and the means of the processing, they can't be the DPO. So that's the C-suite and senior management who determine the why and the how. And neither can anyone who's involved in designing or operationalizing compliance measures, as they'd be marking their own homework. So examples are always great, and Europe's regulators have given us some really useful examples. So the regulators do confirm that the C-suite and senior roles are likely to be conflicted. CEO, COO, CFO, CIO, Chief Marketing Officer, Head of HR and Chief Medical Officer, as well as roles lower down in the organisational structure if their roles lead to them determining the purposes and the means, the why and the how of processing. And regulators see that any person who represents the controller or processor in a court in cases involving data protection is also likely conflicted. Again, in my view, they're clearly conflicted. I've been a litigator and an advocate is definitely not independent. And I'm in good company as the EU Data Protection Supervisor agrees with me. Well, they didn't actually agree with me, it's in their guide to DPOs, on a GDPR style law that applies to EU institutions. It is very persuasive on GDPR. The EDPS agrees about the C-suite roles and adds senior roles in internal audit. And on marking your own homework, they give 2 interesting examples where conflicts of interest may typically arise. That's when a part-time DPO who's from IT assesses processing operations that they've designed. Or a part-time DPO who's part of the compliance team assesses compliance checks and related processing that they've designed. So what about our good old UK ICO? Well, they were part of that EU body, and so unsurprisingly, they do echo that position. They give a couple more examples. A company's head of marketing plans an advertising campaign, including which of the company's customers to target, what method of communications to use, and the personal data that's going to be collected. This person cannot also be the company's DPO. On the other hand, they say a public authority could appoint its existing Freedom of Information Officer, records manager, to be DPO. There's no conflict of interest there, as these roles are all about ensuring information rights compliance. And before GDPR came in, there was a very interesting case in Germany under a similar DPO law, where a regional data protection authority fined a company for using its IT manager as DPO. They decided the IT manager had significant operational responsibility for the processing, and so was conflicted. And here's the bonus tip. Now, I've spoken to plenty of DPOs at organisations that clearly don't need one or haven't really understood what the role's about. If that's you, do have the conversation, because if you're conflicted the moment a more sophisticated customer or investor, so one that you really want, takes a look at you, they'll assume you just don't understand GDPR. So here's the tip, well, two actually. Make that senior employee the privacy officer or privacy manager. Just don't call them the DPO, because it instantly applies GDPR obligations on both the entity and the person. And if you really want a DPO, or you just need a DPO and you don't have someone good for it in-house, consider outsourcing it. It's cheap, there are some great ones out there, and they'll bring instant experience and advice. It'll take a load of stress away from your employees and help you go much faster on compliance. So there you go. Take a look at our other videos, including whether or not you need a DPO. Please do visit us at keepable.com. Do use #PrivacyKitchen to let us know the other topics and questions you want covered. Please do subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed it, and stay well in the meantime, and see you soon in Privacy Kitchen.